Welcome to Ask a CEO, everyone. I'm Greg Demetrio, the host for today. And my day job is CEO of Lorraine Gregory Communications, an integrated marketing company here in New York. My real passion, however, is interviewing CEOs and talking to them about their journey to the corner office. Today, we have a really special guest. I know I say that a lot, but this is true. John Miller is a high-impact international executive leader. In his career, he's made significant difference in the lives of millions. He's turned around struggling nonprofit organizations and strengthened others. He is the president and the CEO of the Guide Dog Foundation and America's Vet Dogs. You may remember Sully, the service dog that was assigned to former President George H.W. Bush. But more about that in a little bit. John is formerly the president and CEO of the Tourette's Association of America and the CEO of the American Red Cross on Long Island during Hurricanes Irene and Sandy. He's also held senior executive positions in public service and higher education. He's received multiple leadership awards, including King of Long Island, CEO of the Year, and Business Achievement Award, and the Top 40 Under 40. John will be with us momentarily.
The Ask a CEO show is brought to you by Lorraine Gregory Communications, a full-service award-winning agency where experience matters. Visit them at lorrainegregory.com.
And here we are with John Miller, the CEO of the Guide Dog Foundation and America's Vet Dogs. John, I got to tell you, I'm so excited to talk to you today. It's been a long time since we've seen each other. Full disclosure, John and I know each other for probably around 20 years. We've been traveling in the same universes, and he's just a fantastic human being. But more importantly, he runs a national nonprofit, and it really has impacted so many people's lives. But before we get started on that, perhaps, John, you could tell the audience your backstory, your personal story, and how you wound up at the Guide Dog Foundation.
Sure. And thanks, Greg. Yeah, we appreciate you having me on. It's good to see you again. And, I see all the great things happening with Lorraine Gregory. So congratulations on your rebrand and all that's happening for you guys. It's an exciting time for you.
Thanks, John.
So my backstory is, pretty simple one. It's kind of intertwined, with different stops, along the way. So I'm a lifelong Long Islander, been here, forever. And, started out my career very early on in local government with the town of Babylon as actually an intern, during high school and college. And then ultimately, when I had graduated, I became the housing director for the town of Babylon and ultimately the public works commissioner.
Yeah.
And, had, political aspirations. Wanted to be president one day. I don't know that I've fully, given up on those yet, but certainly not happening anytime soon, but ultimately got recruited to become the COO of a college up in Westchester, Mercy College, which was, an interesting move for me. It was, totally different field. I had only been in government at that point. And, took a shot and, did some good things, with Mercy. But, candidly, the commute was a crazy commute. I was still living, on Long Island and going back and forth, to Dobbs Ferry every day. And ultimately, decided to make a move. I won't give you every, single job that I've had, but, the one that's most relevant to tying me into the Guide Dog is probably when I started with the food bank for New York City, which is, the largest, in the country. I was brought on there as, the chief of staff. And, this is where everything becomes, intertwined. So did a lot of great work, with the food bank. It's funny, I was with the food bank during the Great Recession, the American Red Cross during Hurricanes Irene and Sandy, and now at Guide Dog with COVID. So I guess it's fair to say I'm battle tested in these crises. But the food bank was great, and did a lot of good work, for thousands, if not millions, of people, getting them food across the 5 boroughs. And one of the partnerships we had was with the American Red Cross in New York City. And we've done, part of my role was to do some business deals with them to provide them food for local disasters, in the city, and build some relationships, and ultimately became aware of an opportunity that was available, with the Red Cross, back on Long Island, and ultimately became, the Suffolk County CEO, and then we merged, Nassau, Suffolk, and Shelter Island, all those 3 branches of the Red Cross, to one unit, and timing is everything. We hit Hurricane Irene and Hurricane Sandy, and it was probably the most impactful time for the Red Cross, in its history here in New York and probably across the country. And great people. The common theme is great people, and for me, I had a very intentional career path that I wanted to follow, and for me, I wanted to be a national level CEO. And an opportunity came across with the National Tourette Association of America, which is based in Bayside, Queens, and does great work with such a great and important community. And I had the opportunity, to really work there, to help turn the organization around, give it a new focus on its business and its programming, and became a national CEO for a couple of years. And this is how it all ties in. It winds up, one of the recruiting firms that I used for the food bank wound up with the search for the Guide Dog Foundation. And we're talking about almost 10, 12 years apart from my tenure there at the food bank, but they stayed in touch and get reached out when this opportunity came forward. And when I had the opportunity to meet some of our clients, the board members here, it was not a hard decision. I love the Tourette Association; they still do incredible work, but ultimately made the decision to come here, which gave me the opportunity now to lead two national organizations in the Guide Dog Foundation and America's Vet Dogs.
I mean, the Guide Dog Foundation is just an outstanding organization. So maybe you could tell the audience about the history of the Guide Dog Foundation and how the American Vet Dogs came to be created and how that happened.
Sure. So we're actually celebrating this year our 75th anniversary with the Guide Dog Foundation. So back in 1946, a group of families came together to put the organization together, and it's been on a great trajectory ever since. So we provide services here at the Guide Dog Foundation to all people who are blind or vision impaired all across the country, Canada, and a couple other countries as well. But we're primarily focused here in the U.S. And we have a 10-acre campus in Smithtown, New York, on Long Island, and we work across the country. We have staff working remotely across the country, whether they're trainers, fundraisers, or whatever their function may be. And about 15, 16 years ago at this point, with the escalating conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan, my predecessor and the board and the organization had the forethought, to see an emerging need for American veterans coming home who may have PTSD or lost a limb or even worse, and formed America's Vet Dogs back in 2003 as a program. And America's Vet Dogs, kind of growth has been exponential. A lot of that growth was due, certainly over the last 3 years, was due to one of the most high-profile dogs in the world, and that's Sully. Right. So we had an opportunity to work with former President George H.W. Bush about 3 years ago now. And, we were instantly thrust, on the international stage. And one of the things I'm most proud of, through that process was, the grace and dignity that everybody in the organization, held themselves with, but also, that the moment wasn't, too big for us, and that we were able to, really work, to shine a light on all the services that are available for all veterans, not just presidents. So it's been a great ride.
Sully became quite an ambassador for the organization with the high level acclaim that was received, the video profiles that were done, the presentations, so forth and so on. So for a nonprofit, that was huge. So that must have opened many, many doors for you. Maybe you could tell us what that actually did. I mean, when the president passed, it was all of a sudden there was Sully, and you guys took that and you took it across the world.
Yeah, it's first I got to say, the president definitely passed way too soon. We thought we were going to be in a much longer partnership with him and and the family. But working with the president and his handlers and the entire Bush family, they were first class in every way possible, and allowed for us to take this opportunity and to really as I said earlier, shine a light on our services. We had 1 month after the president passed, Greg, where we had over 50,000 unique stories on the organization across the world, right? Which is being in marketing, that's you can't buy that, right? And Working with the Bush family really did, a couple different things for us. Number one, prove that we had, the credibility and the right quality of dogs, the right quality of trainers, the right quality of staff, to be worthy of working, with the Bush family. And also, being able, to help tell our story, right? And the services that are available. And, that launched into, different partnerships with different television networks, as well as, many different sports teams. It really put us, at least on the America's Vet Dog side, in my opinion, as the brand leader, in the country for service dogs.
Well, I kind of think that is anyhow. I mean, I know I'm prejudiced because it's in my backyard and I know you for many, many years, and I knew your predecessor. And I was always enthralled with how you guys did. I have two yapping little dogs and I can't teach them to sit down. So what you guys do is amazing, right? So now, John, you've overseen, in this case, the guide dog and the vet dogs, amazing growth. And you've elevated the profile of a nonprofit that's been around for a lot of years. Maybe you could tell us how you dovetailed the two.
Yeah, it's interesting. So this, all the organizations I've worked with have been, terrific, right? We've had great people, great teams, all great causes. And I've been real fortunate in my career to work with a lot of good people. Coming, to the Guide Dog Foundation, one of the things that, I think I brought was, allowing us to think a little bigger, right? Move the needle and, a real sense that we belong, on network television, that we belong, at the tables with the biggest funders in the country, and not being afraid to go for it, right? So looking at, all that we've done, we have a very, very intentional media and public relations strategy. We have a pretty small team relative, to the results, that they get. And, we're very impressed with, all that they've done. But it's, the PR and marketing function for us is a cornerstone, of our growth, telling the story, working with, not only the Bush family, but NBC, local NBC affiliates across the country, a lot of the sports teams we're forming partnerships with, and I'm hopeful that we'll announce some more as people get back into arenas, and stadiums, going forward. But it's just been a great time. But everything we do is really intentional, right? We have, a very clear strategic plan. Now, certainly we could not predict, the spotlight, that we received from working with the president, but we were able to, take that and build other relationships because of the credibility it gave us.
I think isn't that key though, having a purposeful and strategic view and having a plan in place to capitalize on the good things that you have going on. I mean, I think you can translate that to any business whatsoever, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's, I had kind of have a little formula that I've adapted, in each of those stops we've talked about. And, critical to that formula, from my perspective, something I call role and goal clarity, which is basically making sure that everybody in our organization and all of our stakeholders know what our goals are. And each individual who works with us knows what their role is in achieving those goals. And then we hold ourselves accountable, and we just continue to move forward.
So you've increased the high profile relationships that you've had. I don't want to put it all on Sully, but that really opened the door for a lot broader coverage for you guys. So in terms of takeaways from these new or higher level relationships that you have, what would be your takeaway in terms of dealing with those in a different way than, donors you've had in the past? Is there a difference?
There's a slight difference. I mean, everybody's important, right? And, hopefully we convey, to all of our supporters that, we appreciate all levels of our supporters, whether they're volunteers, donors, people who open their homes to our dogs. We appreciate everybody. But, when you look at some of the higher profile, relationships, I think we've been able, to deliver on those because of, the execution of the relationship, meaning that the people we've worked with, on a high profile basis. And you can equate it really, you can look at Sully, and you can also look at, the relationship we had with the Today Show and NBC, to really, you see, we've done these things, a couple times at this point. We get better at it each time, but most importantly, we try, to provide value to our partners. And, the key to life, in my perspective, on a personal and professional basis, is relationships,
Yeah.
right? And people have to trust you, and they have to know you're going to deliver. And we do our best to make sure our partners are happy and make them and us look as good as possible in the process.
Isn't that the foundation? Trust is the foundation of everything else that comes from it. But so now you're in a unique nonprofit in that you find, acquire, train dogs to be service animals. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about what that process is like to go from a puppy to a trained service dog.
Sure. So it's slightly different for each organization, but the base is kind of the same. So we breed the overwhelming majority of the dogs that we use for the program here. We use basically golden retrievers and Labradors, and a small percentage of poodles based on people's need and allergies that they may have. So the dogs are bred here. They stay on campus here in Smithtown till they're about 8 weeks of age. When they're 8 weeks, we team them up with somebody we call a puppy raiser, right? At least on the guide dog side. So we have a ton of volunteers. We've had 1,600 exactly, or approximately, volunteers across the country who help us in raising the dogs and raising the money. So a dog will be going to a puppy raiser for the Guide Dog Foundation, and will work until they're about live in that house and be socialized until they're about 14 to 16 months old. At which point they come back here to Smithtown, no matter where they were across the country, and get trained by our professional trainers, who match them up ultimately and make the skills commensurate with the veteran, or in this case the person who's blind or visually impaired, and their needs. And everything from the size of the dog to the skills that they get is highly customized based on the need. When you have the America's Vet Dog side, many of those dogs, when they leave here at 8 weeks, go to prisons across the country, and are trained in what we call our puppy prison program. And same timing, when they get back around 14 to 16 months, they will come back here, and same process. Whether they're going to somebody in a wheelchair, somebody who may have a prosthetic limb, somebody who may have an invisible injury such as PTSD, those skills will be customized as well.
So your dogs have prison records.
Yes.
I didn't know that. That's really an interesting way to handle it. I always thought that would be a fertile place to use people who want something in their lives and they're stuck in these penitentiaries. And what do they have to look forward to? I can imagine what a puppy does for them. It's got to be life-changing.
Oh yeah, it's mutually beneficial, right? It helps us because the dogs are with them 24/7, right? It's and they have the opportunity to have a dog, which is a unique scenario in a prison. And we have a number of inmates who volunteer to get in the program. Certainly more inmates want to have it than we have puppies available.
You have to tell me how that happened. How did you decide, and who approached who about putting dogs in prisons?
Yeah. So the model was here before I got here, so I certainly can't take any credit for that, nor would I want to. But it's fairly common in organizations like ours in the Northeast, in particular, to work with different prisons, to do this. We had somebody on staff who was one of the first people who did this in another organization up in Boston. And we replicated that model here on Long Island. And we have prisons actually that run the entire eastern seaboard from Maine to Florida.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So, John, we're going to take a quick pause here to let the commercial come in so the sponsors can pay our bills. And we'll be back to you in a few moments.
The Ask a CEO show is brought to you by Lorraine Gregory Communications, a full-service award-winning agency where experience matters. Visit them at lorrainegregory.com.
And we're back with John Miller, the Guide Dog and America Vet Dog CEO. So, John, the Guide Dog Foundation is such a large organization. How do you generate the funds necessary to maintain and grow your operation? I mean, I've been in the nonprofit world for more than I like to consider. So how do you use your market? I know you touched on it a little bit. How do you use your marketing and advertising to help you attain those funds?
Yeah, so we have a very diversified, revenue streams. We have, everything from, the blocking and tackling of, direct mail that you'd get, in your house. And, we have acquisition mailings and, renewal mailings that we do. We have high touch events, which are terrific. One of the most unique things when I came here, and they really had explained to me what this was, is it's a dog fashion show. We call it Dogs on the Catwalk, right? And we have, a great fashion designer from New York City who does, fashions for both female models, male models, and for dogs. And, when I first saw this, I said, wow, this is probably the most unique event I've ever seen. And, the designer takes it very seriously. The audience loves it. The dogs come out dressed up in, custom design clothes. Everybody goes crazy. And, fun events like that. We have major gift program. We started, in the last couple of years, the sports partnerships, and something for your executive audience here, Greg. We do a program which is brand new, is called the Corporate Puppy with a Purpose, where an organization can adopt, or sponsor is probably a better way to say it, sponsor a puppy as they go through their training process. And there's branding involved on the vests that we give the dog, and we do a lot of social media. And marketing is probably as responsible for our success that we've had over here for the last 3 years as any part of the organization. We have high touch partners. The relationship we have with NBC, the Today Show. We did spots with NBC for a year long in Boston, Baltimore, Atlanta, and LA. We continue to develop all different forms of media relationships. And once again, going back to Sully, we were on the big stage nationally and internationally with all of the major networks, with Fox, NBC, CBS, ABC, BBC, all of the major networks, both here and abroad. And we were able to continue to cultivate and work with those relationships as a result of the Sully experience. But we really have a great team. Our marketing team is terrific. It's a team of 4. They produce like they're a team of 8 at least, and have just gotten terrific results. They're very passionate about what we do, and everything that we do is based on the people we help, right? And so it's easy to get passionate about that. So asking these guys to think big is not a hard task here.
So you actually preempted my question. I was going to talk about your exposure with the top name broadcast and so forth. And my question really is, how important is that to your overall leadership, and how does that filter down to the rest of the organization? You're being the international spokesman, if you will.
Yeah, it's a cornerstone to what we're doing, right? It's really an intentional strategy to get nationally earned media and local earned media regionally here in New York and in the markets we work with. We work very hard to do that. And I think whenever we're featured, it's good news, right? There's a lot of good news that happens, and it's about helping people and changing their lives. In a world where a lot of the news is bad, lately, these are good stories. So I think, for our organization to see us out there, whether it's me as the spokesperson or one of our graduates or, another member of the team, speaking and, highlighting the organization, it's uplifting for everybody. And, these are very proud moments for us when we get national and, regional exposure. And, it also feeds into, all of our donor engagement and making sure that everybody's up to date, on what we're doing. And when they see the high level, stuff, it's, it gives us a lot of credibility.
It's interesting because you're such a big organization. You're a larger than life personality, whether you like me to say that or not. But I've seen you on many of these video productions, and you just bring the message just so strong, right? But now you run a big organization, and Mike Dowling of Northwell says culture eats strategy for lunch. Meaning that organizational health and success, especially in a nonprofit, depend on culture. How would you describe the culture of what you're running, and why is it so important to the organization?
Yeah, no, I would agree with that statement. It's it's an interesting mix of people we have. We have people all across the country and volunteers all across the country that work with us. So when I came in, part of the blueprint I was talking about earlier was to really just, create a culture of transparency, right? So whether it goes to the role and goal clarity, what we're trying to accomplish, my hope is that everybody who works with us, knows what our goals are at this point. That we have, feedback loops, both not only with me, but the entire management team with our volunteers and our staff. And it's really about building that trust and open communication. And the thing I would define the most about our people here, that's probably the most representative of our culture, is passion. Our people want to help the people who need us and need our dogs, and really work to get things done, right? And during COVID here in particular, like everybody else, we were really in the beginning trying to struggle to figure out what we were going to do. And, we came up with a pretty good plan that probably had to change about 95 times, right? And I'm probably understating that.
Yes.
But our people were with us. And I was very proud to see, everybody in our organization, rise to the occasion. And I really think that stems from, the services we provide and knowing that people are depending on us.
Yeah, well, it's on. Without them, what do you really have? To tell you the truth, without that passion, without the buy-in into the vision, you're really left floundering. So, growth of a company, even a nonprofit, is very exciting, and I'm sure you guys have experienced some exponential growth over the last period of time. But that creates new challenges every day.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do you, John Miller, prepare to meet challenges every day without getting burnt out?
That's an interesting question. COVID, I think, has challenged all of us. I think number one, Greg, is being organized and being centered in our goals and what we're trying to accomplish, so we don't let a lot of outside noise kind of come in, and get us distracted from that. It's also about being situationally aware, like what's happening with the rest of the world. We can't live in isolation here. But it's about enjoying what you do too. I can't, if there's ever you're having a bad day here, you go outside, you see a puppy or you see a veteran who lost their limbs, in conflict, and the dog changing their life, right? So there's a lot of good stuff happening here, and there's a business to run too, right? None of this happens unless we're executing on a business plan, right? So we got to raise a lot of money, and we got to do our jobs well every day because it's a crowded marketplace. But here it's easy to do here, with the people we help. So it's self-motivating.
I've always said it, I've been involved with the nonprofit world since I sat in this chair. And I've always told them, I've always advised them, listen, you may be a nonprofit, but you are a business. If you don't run your nonprofit like a business, you're going to be out of business.
Yep.
And what am I selling? I'm a nonprofit. I'm not having anything to sell. Yes, you do. You're selling your cause and your message and your achievements. And that's your product. And that's what you're selling. So the fact that you say it's got to run like a business is spot on. Spot on. It's always been my advice to nonprofits. Some of them get it. Some of them don't. All right.
Yeah.
So listen, you're like just all over the place. You're John everywhere. So what does rest, relaxation, and recreation look like for you?
Not a lot of rest, but I have my wife and I have two children, one 14-year-old, one 12, as we're sitting here today. They both play, travel soccer, at a very high level. One just switched teams, so now we're going in two different places across, Long Island and, the Northeast, with our kids. We like spending time out on the soccer field with them. I always said if I ever got a couple weeks off, on a personal basis, I'd love to go out, spend a month, out in Vegas and, tackle the World Series of Poker. I haven't gotten to it yet, but that is definitely on my list, to do. But, we enjoy, going to games, sporting games, whether it's baseball, football, or kids' soccer games. We like fine dining too. Some restaurants, food is definitely, as you might see, form of entertainment, for me. But when you look at life, finding that balance is tough, but it's important, to do, to have some separation.
Well, having passion for what you do doesn't ordinarily lend itself to the fine line of, okay, I quit work at 4:30, or I quit work at 5 o'clock, or I'm definitely off on Saturday and Sunday, and I haven't taken a 2-week vacation in ever, right? So you have to try and find some kind of balance. I don't like the term work balance. I really don't.
Yep.
I love what I do. I show up every day. If you asked me to work 8 days a week, I would, because it's my passion. It's what listen, I started out as a New York City detective. How the hell did I know I was going to be in a marketing agency?
Yep.
Right. So learning that all of these years now, and I'm in a position where I can apply it. It's like, wow, I know this stuff. This is good stuff. Right. And you want to get up, you want to go to work every day. So, all
Absolutely.
right, I could keep you all day long. You and I could talk forever about your organization and what I'm learning from you today. But I really need to be responsible for our audience and their CEOs and people on their journey to the corner office. So in closing, I always ask my guests, what's the best advice you've ever received? And it could be both, personally or business or one or the other. Your choice.
Yeah, I think it's always, work hard and always live up to your word, right? Your word is, all you have at the end of the day. And, life, as we talked a little about earlier, Greg, from my perspective, is all about trust and relationships. If you have it, you're golden. If you don't, it's hard to get back. And living up to your word, being honest with people, when you can't do something. But mostly, I would say, be authentic, be you, because if you're not, people will see right through it. And be an effective communicator.
Yeah. You can't just talk the talk. You have to walk the walk.
100%.
Right. So, John, thank you so much for being on the show today. You're welcome back anytime.
Thank you.
Please let the audience know how they can contact you, get more information about the Guard Dog Foundation or America's Vet Dogs, how they can volunteer, how they can donate.
Yeah, so it's pretty simple, Greg. Just go to either one of our websites, guidedog.org or vetdogs.org.
Pretty good. John, thank you much. Well, that's a wrap, folks. Don't miss any of our upcoming Ask a CEO interviews. We have some great guests lined up from every industry from all over the world. The video interviews are available on YouTube at Greg's Corner Office or as a podcast on Apple, Spotify, and all the other streaming platforms. If you've enjoyed the show, please subscribe and share far and wide. And thanks, and we'll see you next time.